Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jan Sysmans. I'm a mobile defense evangelist here at Appdome. We're going to hold for one more minute to allow more attendees to join the webinar, but thank you so much for taking the time and join with us. This is a global webinar. And again, thank you so much for joining us this morning, this afternoon. So great. So by now we should have most attendees in the webinar. Again, thank you so much for joining us this morning, this afternoon. My name is Jan Sysmans. I'm a mobile app defense evangelist here at Appdome. With me, I have some of my colleagues, Dean McDonald, Director of Customer Success, and Ardi Sharifnia, who is on our commercial team. Ardi, you wanted to say a couple words before we start?
Yes, I did. Just a couple of important points. I wanted to start off by outlining that more than half of the global web traffic now is generated through mobile devices. So obviously with that increase comes the equivalent in bot traffic. Our aim, as you'll see, is today, firstly, objectively provide an overview of the whole mobile bot situation globally, and then really assess the impact to your WAF and network security infrastructure in general. And then to share with you what our proven solution is to minimize their impact and enhance their efficiency overheads of your WAF. So that's all I wanted to say. Over to you, Jan.
Great. Thank you so much, Ardi. What is Appdome? So Appdome is a mobile app defense automation platform that allows mobile developers, it allows security teams, that allows network security teams to build a set of mobile defenses into their mobile apps. On Appdome, you can choose between 340 different protections around mobile app security, fraud prevention, mobile malware detection, social engineering prevention, geo-compliance, mobile bot defense, and more. All of those is fully integrated inside of your CI/CD. So as a developer, you don't have to do any work. And as a security person, you are in full control over the security model that you would like to implement. So if I say this differently, Appdome is a mobile app defense automation platform that will protect your consumers against scams, that will defend your mobile business against fraud, and that will secure your network against automated bot attacks. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. In addition to all that, of course, on Appdome, you can build comprehensive data protections into your Android and iOS apps as well. But really what I would like you to take away from this session is that you can protect your consumers against scams, defend your mobile business against fraud, and secure your network against mobile bot attacks. So we have a problem in the mobile anti-bot industry today. And so that's why I invited my colleague, Dean. So Dean, can you tell us a little bit more about the problem that exists with WAFs today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Jan. Web application firewalls or WAFs today, they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Every mobile app needs to talk to an API. That's given these days. And in between the app and the API, we of course have web application firewalls. The challenge that our customers have said to us over the years that there's really kind of three main challenges that we have, or three groups of challenges that we have with web application firewalls. And so firstly, they're really not designed for mobile traffic at all. So web application firewalls are, they're built over time. They're built over a really long period of time, sometimes even decades. And they really only work with that WAF provider's infrastructure. So by that I mean Akamai will work with Akamai, F5 will work with F5. And over time, they become a really, really complex and effectively expensive operation to run. In addition to that, when we talk about mobile traffic, which is what Appdome does, Appdome is in the mobile path where the mobile traffic, the WAF isn't designed for that. The WAF is really still designed for predominantly web-based traffic that's coming from your typical web browser on a client device, and they're really not designed for web traffic. What they have done over time, though, is to really, in an attempt to bridge that gap with mobile, is provide what we call SDKs. And so SDKs from the web application provider are a way for them to put some intelligence into the mobile app so they can provide some code in the form of an SDK. That code will then go into the mobile app in a way to try to differentiate that mobile app's traffic from potentially malicious or attack traffic or bot traffic, if you will. Now, the challenges with any SDK really is it's third-party code. And so that third-party code is incorporated into a mobile app. There can be challenges managing that code, but it also puts responsibility on the app developer or the development team of the app to keep that code updated through code changes and things like that. And on the security side of things, when we talk about putting SDKs into mobile apps to communicate with a specific WAF, that SDK is often available to the public. And so that really undermines the nature of what they're trying to do. So if the bad actors can get access to the SDK, they get access to the code, they know what the SDK is trying to do to identify to a particular WAF, and then they can just mimic that. And so, as I said before, WAFs are great. WAFs are fantastic. They're ubiquitous. They're everywhere, but they're really not designed to cater for the huge increase in mobile-specific traffic.
Yeah, great. And so, how does Appdome, Dean? How does Appdome differentiate itself, and how does Appdome help organizations protecting against mobile bot attacks?
Yeah, great question. So firstly, going back to what you said earlier, Appdome is built into the mobile app. So when we put our protections and defenses into a mobile app, customers do that through either the UI or through CI/CD. Those protections and those defenses are actually built directly into the mobile app. And so we have a capability called Antibot, mobile bot defense, that's also built directly into the mobile app. And we can talk to any WAF. Okay, so we're not limited to any particular vendor of WAF. We're completely agnostic as far as the WAF is concerned. We put the intelligence and the capability into the mobile app so that it can send the information or data to any particular WAF, and that has a guaranteed way of identifying whether the traffic is from the customer's mobile app or not, or from your mobile app or not. The benefit of that is, firstly, it supports any WAF. We can work with all WAF vendors, any standards-based WAF vendor. Our telemetry and our information can be built into your mobile app. That will work with any WAF. Now,
and there's another problem there too, isn't it, Dean? Is that an existing Antibot SDK only works with one specific WAF vendor, and I haven't met many customers who only have one WAF in their network. They typically have multiple WAFs in their network, correct?
Correct, especially these days. Go back several years, it may not have been the case, but definitely these days, yeah, they will have multiple WAFs. They want flexibility because cost can be an issue. They want to be able to shop around and look for different, maybe some lower cost WAF providers. And we actually provide that. So we provide a dramatic increase in the security between the mobile app and the API by embedding our telemetry and information directly into the mobile app, so that any WAF, again, pick the top WAF vendors, we support all of them. They can then, the customer, that's you, the customer, can decide which policies will go into that WAF to determine what action is taken should the connection come from your mobile app or not. And that takes us into the middle section of real versus fake. With the Appdome technology built into the mobile app, we have a very, very rich clear understanding of what is happening on that device as far as the security perspective goes. And with that telemetry being sent to the WAF, the customer, the customer being the owner of the app, is able to go to their WAF vendor and say, look, we can go back to effectively a lower plan. We just need to support a few things like mutual TLS. We need to be able to put some policies in there. We need to be able to look at session headers. We don't need anything else. And so if they do that, they know that when their app runs and their app tries to connect to the API via the WAF, there's enough information in that connection for them to know, bang, that is absolutely 100% our app coming from a secure device or an uncompromised device. We can let that connection go through. All the rest will be dropped. And
great. And we're going to show that in the demo in a second, correct?
Correct, exactly. So the latter part is the 360-degree, what we call 360-degree session risk.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So if you think about what existing WAFs do or existing bot attacks do versus how Appdome protects against those bot attacks, what are the key differentiations here that we should be talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So the first one is portability. As we said before, we're not tied to any WAF. That's the first part. If you have a solution that can support any WAF, then you're free to run multiple WAFs. You're free to move from one WAF provider to another and not take any step back as far as security goes. You actually will take a giant leap forward, I guess you could say. But if we look at API,
and you have a multi-WAF architecture as well that you can fully support, and I think that is the other key element there. Yeah.
Exactly, correct. But if we look at bots and APIs in general, the types of attacks that we see against APIs, credential stuffing and DDoS attacks are very big. And just to be clear, we're not saying that you no longer need a WAF. That's not what Appdome is saying. We're not saying you don't need a WAF. What we're saying is you can do a lot more with your existing WAF in terms of the security and the protection that it provides and the cost to maintain that security protection. So the typical attacks against APIs, credential stuffing, we know that there's fake apps out there. Most traffic these days is mobile. Bad actors are out there using bot farms, scripts. They're using a lot of emulator devices. They're running apps on emulators at scale to try to replicate workflow in apps to bypass and steal money. Apps get weaponized. There's zombie apps out there that are controlled by bad actors. There's fake users, relay attacks, and of course, compromised devices. If we look at the left-hand side kind of steps through some of the core things that Appdome's mobile bot defense will do. So the first part is client-side rate limiting, and I'll try to be quick when I go through these because they're all pretty meaty subjects. So I'll go through them relatively quickly. Client-side rate limiting. So the first point is we can use the compute on the device itself, on the mobile device itself, to control or limit how many connections it's able to send to the WAF. Typically, anything with rate limiting is always done on the server side. That takes compute. There's a cost to that. We can actually shift some or all of that rate limiting to the client device. So actually on the mobile device itself, within the mobile app, within your mobile app. Secondly, pre-authentication, mutual TLS pre-authentication. So you can think of that as being, it's a two-way authentication. It's extension to the TLS protocol. Whenever your app connects to the WAF, there is a two-way handshake that happens. Firstly, the app is identifying the WAF and the WAF is identifying the client device. And with that, there's obviously certificates on both sides. Should that transaction or that handshake fail, then that's most likely not your device, not your app, sorry. And that connection can be rejected. Just doing that, and typically that's a phase one for our customers deploying mobile bot, just doing that one part, which is very, very quick to deploy. We can deploy this in minutes. That's going to strip out anything that is going to fail mTLS, which is all of the bot traffic, potentially compromised devices. All of that will just go away with one simple component of mobile bot defense. Then we can
so hang on, Dean, if I hear this correctly, what I'm going to use a different word, is that with Appdome, it's very easy to watermark your official app so that all other traffic that is not watermarked can be identified as malicious or a bot, and you can just not even allow that to make a connection. Is that correct?
Exactly. So think about it as being, similar to what we call a bouncer or a security guard at a door. Firstly, the security guard wants to check the ID of the person coming to the door, if that passes. But in this case, the person that's coming to the door is also checking the ID of the security guard. So there's going to be this two-way authentication. And once that's enabled, then our customers can really rely on that. If that process fails, then there's a reason for that, and that traffic is probably not going to be allowed through. So that's going to be dropped.
And that then also means that there's a huge cost savings too in the number of connections that a WAF has to handle. Is that correct?
Correct, exactly. If all of the bad traffic is dropped at the web application firewall, that's traffic that is no longer making it to the API. All of that is dropped right there and then. And that is, yes, absolutely. It is a cost saving for sure.
Okay. Yeah, great.
So I'll just be very quick on this next part. So session risk headers, I touched on it before in the 360, in the 360 box on the right-hand side. We include telemetry in that connection. So let's say a situation where mTLS passes. So that's all good. It's most definitely our customer's app. It's a legitimate app. It has the certificates in there that passes. So then the transaction is allowed to go through. But we also include some more telemetry in terms of what's actually happening on that device. Is it under attack? Is it a rooted device? Does it have Magis? Does it have Free? Does it have countless other concerns or risk factors with that device that is then available to the WAF to make a decision whether it continues processing a request or not. And we call that session risk headers. And it really gives our customers the control and the ability to say, okay, if this information comes through or if this telemetry comes through and it passes to mTLS, we no longer want to accept the connection, or we want to do something else with it based on policy. So we enable our customers to take their existing WAF and really decrease the cost of it, but also increase the return on investment because they can do a lot more with their WAF. Okay, we call that session risk headers. Similarly, it's up to the customer what policy they want to configure. We can provide recommendations, of course, but ultimately it comes down to what the customer decides, what they do with each piece of telemetry. It is entirely up to them. Is it a rooted device? We want to do this. We want to reject it or enforce some sort of other policy. And getting back to what Jan said before, there are hundreds of different pieces of telemetry that we can include in that session risk header. It could be location of the device, longitude, latitude, operating system, hardware manufacturer. There's a lot of telemetry that we can include that customers can then utilize in whichever way they is best for their business. Similarly, we do certificate pinning. Most, if not all, apps in some form will have to do cert pinning. Typically, it's manual. Developers have to do that themselves, or they use Trust Manager or whatever they're using to manage their certificates. We can take that away and do the certificate pinning directly in the app as well. That's what Pin to WAF is. So the end of this, the net of what we're getting to is customers can save cost on their WAF because they actually don't need any Antibot capabilities from their WAF provider. They can turn all those off, come to Appdome, turn on our mobile bot defense and get access to hundreds of different pieces of telemetry, as well as mutual TLS, and save cost on the WAF, reduce complexity, put a little bit more, more burden onto the mobile device through rate limiting, but then all of the bot and malicious traffic then goes away.
Great, and we'll show that in a demo in a second. So, but just to preview the demo, all of this can be configured inside of the Appdome platform and built into the mobile app in a matter of minutes, correct?
Correct, exactly. So from
Yeah.
unprotected, no Appdome, all the way through to a fully protected Appdome app only takes minutes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And would it be a far stretch to say, Dean, that with all of the cost savings that are available, that our customers can potentially save up to millions of dollars in their network expenses and their and WAF expenses?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's an asterisk. It depends on, what WAF provider is being used, what capability the WAF providers are turned on, what they charge, the cost model, the amount of traffic as well. Obviously, very, very big, high traffic apps they would be paying a lot
Yeah.
in traffic. So for sure.
Yeah. So an investment in Appdome literally can mean an overall decrease in your network security costs. So it's a very, very wise investment to make. So we'll show it in a demo, but it really is as simple as 1, 2, 3. You select that mobile app defense on the Appdome platform. You configure your policies, and then you click Build My App, and we'll show you this in detail in a second in the demo. But it truly is as simple as 1, 2, 3, and configuring mobile bots, Appdome's mobile bot defense on the WAF side. That people may be concerned here and say, "Hey, this is going to be hard for us to do." Is that the same way, though, Dean? It's really, really simple, straightforward thing to do, and your organization on the customer success side will fully help customers do this, correct?
100%. Yes. What we're looking at here, and I'll just speak to this slide for a couple of minutes. You can see clearly that's an F5 iRule policy, and F5 was really, kind of the initial. Our first customers were using F5, and so what we've got there is an example implementation with F5 that uses iRule, but it doesn't matter if the customer is using Akamai or Cloudflare or any other WAF vendor. As I said, we're completely agnostic. Our onboarding team will help customers right through the onboarding journey, all the way from testing all the way through to production across all WAFs. And one of the benefits of Appdome, to throw the kind of the commercial side, we don't charge for that. So anything that's in our subscription model, which is probably outside of this call, we don't charge for any of that. We will help our customers onboard right from the start, all the way through to production, which is just incorporated into our subscription fee.
Great. If anybody has any questions, this is the time to submit your questions in the Zoom meeting, and then we'll look at those. Again, thank you, Dean, so much. I'm going to get my account ready to start the demo. Or Dean, do you want to do the demo?
If you've got the share on, Jan, you can do it. If you're running to the pass it across to me.
Yeah.
No.
So let me stop sharing for a moment, and then get my account ready. In the meantime, Jenner, do we have any questions in the Q&A?
I did see one pop up.
There is one question.
Okay. Can you read the question out loud, Jenner, please?
Sure. It's from Rickson Martins. Could you please share how does the licensing work?
Yeah, Dean, can you go over the licensing of our mobile bot defense?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a subscription model, and there's a few different components to it. The first component is by app. So predominantly we license per app. Now, when we say per app, if you think about a common app that people use, let's say, for example, the McDonald's app or something, there's going to be an Android and an iOS version. We treat that as one app. So the first point is one app, the number of apps, and then it comes down to what capabilities you want to enable. Do you want to have mobile bot defense turned on? Then we incorporate that into the license. And as Jan had on his earlier slides, there's over 340 or so different protections. Then we take into account, how many of those protections you want to turn on. And all of that, and then of course the support level. So all of that combined together, we turn that into a yearly subscription, yearly subscription cost. And again, that includes all training and onboarding. So that yearly cost that we have in the contract will cover everything. There's no surprises, there's no additions, there's no professional services, no training cost, nothing. It's all included into that yearly subscription.
Okay. Any other questions we have at this moment?
I did see one about a list of the WAF providers that we support, but I don't know who it was from, and it's disappeared. I can just tell the group we support all WAF. So whatever WAF provider you have, we support them. AWS, Cloudflare, Akamai, all the usual suspects.
Okay. Good. Let me share my screen with you at this moment. And okay, can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I've logged into my my demo account on the Appdome platform. Getting started with Appdome is really, really easy. All you need is to compile the application. So that is an IPA file for iOS or an AAB or an APK file for Android. Once you do, in your account, you'll see your here in here is your all of the apps that you are protecting. Then once you click on that specific app that you have, and again, it could be as many apps as you have in your business, you have the Appdome workflow over here, and all of the services in the solution. So I am in the build section of the workflow, and here I am in the Antibot part of our service offering. Excuse me. Okay, so getting configured on Appdome is very, very easy. It simply is turning on or off a protection. Okay, so Dean, you said we typically start with mTLS. So what do we do here? We add a certificate, and where does that certificate go? And how does that work?
Good question. So first off, we start with a protected host. So you can see there we have www.appdome.com as being the protected host. This is going to be your API or whatever you have that is landing on current on the WAF. Then we go through and just turn on mutual TLS. We haven't done rate limiting because typically customers would start with mutual TLS. It's a very small amount of effort for a very, very big reward. So we typically start with that. Toggle it on, as Jan said, all of our defenses are just a toggle switch. Then we provided a P12 format certificate, which for those that are in the security industry, you'll know what that is. They're pretty easy to create. So we create the P12 certificate with the password. Then there's going to be the corresponding that is uploaded to the WAF. That's it. That's all we need to do on the Appdome side to get mobile working with mutual TLS. If Jan goes,
and again, I want to be very clear, Dean. So this works with any WAF, including in a multi-WAF architecture. No? So that's
correct.
really all it takes. So whereas in a traditional world, you as a developer, you would have to take a mobile SDK from a vendor. You build that SDK into the app, and that is an exclusive of any other mobile SDK of any other vendor. So it only would work with one firewall, with one WAF. And here with Appdome, you don't have to do any of that work. All you do is you build this P12 certificate inside of the app. It corresponds with the WAF, multi-architecture WAF, any WAF, and you're off to the races, correct?
Exactly correct. Exactly correct, Jan.
Thank you. Okay, next part that we want to talk about. Do we want to go to session headers or to the rate limiting?
Well, we can do rate limiting very quickly. It's actually a pretty easy subject to cover. Rate limiting is rate limiting. Everyone knows, roughly what it means. If we turn that on, again, toggle switch, we just turn it on, and there's some a pre-populated request per second there, which we deem as 5 being a pretty good number. That configuration, as it is right there, is going to do exactly as it says on the screen. It's going to put a limit on the number of requests per second that the mobile app this is getting built into can send to the WAF. And that's using the compute, that's using the silicon on the mobile device. Okay, very, very straightforward. So what we can see there is an enforcement URLs list. If you want to provide, you need to provide one or more enforcement URLs, you can do that just there by clicking add. Okay, that's it. Again, very, very simple. The UI of Appdome is designed to be intuitive. It's designed to be very, very straightforward and just do exactly what you see on the screen. It's not meant to be a complex, burdensome thing to configure. Next part is session headers. So if we turn on session headers, very, very quick, again, we can provide enforcement URLs, which can be the same or different to before. Then we have a few things down there we can see on the screen. If you hit the eyeball on the right-hand side, there's two eyeballs there, just on the right-hand side. It's just going to unhash the, no, go down, save session, see the eyeballs, go up. He'll get there in a second. So what you can see is hashed out. They're basically strings. They're random strings that get generated. And we send those to your WAF, and customers obviously will change them, but we send them to your WAF and they do either one or the other. Either it says this is a save session, depending on the header that's included, or it's potentially an at-risk session. So the WAF can be, the policy can be as simple as looking for safe or at risk. Safe, everything's good. At risk, there might be some further investigation needed. Okay, so that's what we call safe session versus at risk. Then we can go down into more of the payload type data that we include. Again, everything that Appdome will send in the Appdome layer of the app to the WAF is obviously encrypted. So there is a signing key that we would add there for the payload piece. But then the rest that you can see there is really specific telemetry that we include as part of the 360-degree session risk. There's going to be a timestamp. Everything has to be timestamped. There's a nonce, what we call a nonce, which is a number used once. And that's really there to protect against session replay attacks. There's a sign message, which is basically Appdome has signed this payload. So you know the payload, the integrity of the payload. There's a Appdome threat ID. All of the threats that Appdome can detect, which is, again, a lot, we have an associated threat ID. Okay, so attached to that. Now that threat ID is a quick way to determine what that threat is, or what event has occurred for this to be an at-risk session. So it could be root, it could be overlay attacks, or whatever it ends up being. There's an associated threat ID, attached to that connection. Then there's an Appdome app ID. We have a unique identifier for all the apps that get built on Appdome, and we pass that in as the app ID as well. Okay. Pin to host. Pin to host, if you just turn that on, the best way to explain pin to host is cert pinning, certificate pinning. Okay, so we have three different options for certificate pinning. You can see them there. They're strict, root, and public key. They really have pros and cons. It really goes from easy to implement but lower security right through to more complex but far higher security. And what we can also do with certificate pinning, and just in the interest of time, is we can enforce the TLS version, of course. We manage the certificates in here as well. So if you, if you click, you don't have to click the add file because it's just going to pop up a box, but you as the customer would have your certificates uploaded into Appdome. And then we would store those for you. They get built into the app and heavily encrypted. There's a big difference between how customers typically do cert pinning in a mobile app today versus how we do it. Cert pinning on a device today typically uses things like Trust Manager, which is actually susceptible to bypass. It runs at the kind of bytecode level, Java bytecode level, and it is subject to attack. It's subject to bypassing. We don't do that. Our cert pinning, our cert management is actually done right down to the operating system level. So it actually lowers it down and makes it not susceptible to any type of bypass attack. The other benefit is you don't have to manage certificates. You developers will just build the app. They don't have to worry about cert pinning anymore. They can have multiple certificates in this profile in case maybe the first one expires. There can be a backup. It really takes that whole TLS cert pinning management burden away, okay, from traditional. And I am stepping a little bit out of mobile bot because we've done cert pinning for many, many years, and We also do it in mobile bot, and the traditional cert pinning, don't go to that area of the platform, Jan, but there's two places you can really do cert pinning. You could do cert pinning alone without mobile bot, and we've done that for many years, or you can do cert pinning inside mobile bot. You can't do both. That's one or the other.
Yeah. But I think I want to dig into this a little bit more, because you've just highlighted two very, very important parts. And the first one is, it's a question I get from customers all the time. Okay, they have a very difficult time implementing cert pinning, and you ask the question is, well, are you dealing with expired certificates and then people not being able to use your mobile app? And that is typically what comes back. It's, yes, we don't know how to manage certificates. They expire on the server side, and they're not in line or in sync with what's in the app. So I just want to reiterate what you just said, Dean. It is easy to upload a set of certificates that that expire today, or that have or certificates that will be used in the future, so that once you build your apps, you can always make sure that you have enough certificates in the app to correspond with the correct certificates on the server side. So that is a really, really important part from a customer experience model there as well. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. And then the second thing that you brought up is, and I think we didn't really emphasize that, is the ability as you as the customer to choose where you want to handle the enforcement. Okay, so you can, what we're talking about here is using the WAF to enforce any policies that you've set. We have a complete other and mobile app defense business where you, well, it's complementary, where you handle all the enforcement at the application level. But I think, Dean, the most interesting part of our solution is that you can have a hybrid enforcement model. You can choose, you, the customer, you, the security people, you choose where you want to handle specific enforcements. There's certain enforcements that you will want to handle at the application side, and then there's certain enforcements you want to handle at the network side, at the WAF side. And I think that it's such a unique differentiator that gives the network security team and the CISO complete control over how and where they want to handle enforcement. Did I get that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely correct. All of the, as we mentioned before, all of the capabilities that Appdome provides are built into the mobile app, and customers do then get the flexibility with mobile bot defense to decide where they do that enforcement. Enforcement can be done as we have done, Appdome has done traditionally, on the device itself. So load the app, there's an event that's detected, whatever event that may be, whatever's enabled, that can be enforced and action immediately on the device, or the customer can choose to do that on the WAF.
Yeah, and again, I just want to stress again, all of this without the mobile app developers having to do any work. All of these policy settings is controlled by the security people. The mobile app developers don't have to do any work, correct?
Correct, 100% correct.
Great. And then let's talk about the mobile device risks that you've mentioned now several times as well. So one of the key things is that you can detect at the WAF level whether or not a device is infected, or is where the operating state is not not according to what your standards are. Let's just leave it at that. And again, can you talk a little bit about those how that would be used by a customer?
Absolutely, 100%. Just scroll up a little bit, Jan, just to the box above that. I'll just go through just very quickly for the audience. What you can see here is there's a lot of capability and a lot of attack vectors that Appdome will protect against. And we can see here that we're covering off, man-in-the-middle attack prevention. Most security people will know what an MITM is. I don't know if we're allowed to call it MITM. I think it should be person-in-the-middle attack, because we don't know who's actually doing it. But we can detect and prevent, MITM attacks, replay attacks, session hijacking, cookie hijacking, malicious proxy detection as well. And we do have capabilities to, to know if there is something in the middle that is actually safe. So it could be some type of VPN connection that customers or brands want to allow through. We can do that. We can provide some flexibility in that to know that that's a safe connection to allow through. Now, if you scroll down to where you were before, these are some of the security events that the audience may have heard of. Is the device rooted? Does the user have root access to that device or jailbroken on the IR side? Does it have Magisk? Does it have Frida toolkits? Is it running on an emulator? Is it running on some type of simulator? Is it under an MITM attack where they're trying to intercept the connections between the device and of course the API? And there's different trust models. So zero trust model it's blocked. It just gets immediately blocked at the device and it's not allowed to go through. Or we can put it in what we call a runtime trust, where we're just continually monitoring it. So the customer has the ability to let that app continue to run, and we'll accept the connections. It will go to the WAF, telemetry will make it to the WAF, and they can just let that run until such time as they decide that, okay, we're going to start blocking this now. Then they can just turn on the policy on the WAF. So there's really two what we call trust modes or trust models with mobile bot.
And you see here the hybrid enforcement as well. No, so I had enabled on the mobile app security tab, I had enabled root detection over here. If I turn this off, I can now go back to Antibot, and I can now handle root enforcement at the website. So again, it's all about making the configurations really, really easy, really simple. So I think, Dean, we have some additional advanced detection models as well, detecting the use of a VPN access, custom Frida shellcode. Again, there's 350 defenses on the platform. There's way too much to talk about in this short session. I'm going to build the app right now. Okay, so let me turn off a couple elements that would prevent me from building the app because I don't have the right certificates. But as you can see, all you have to do is on the bottom right of your screen, click the green button, build my app. But most of our customers, Dean, are going to be doing this in CI/CD. So can you tell us a little bit more about how Appdome connects to any CI/CD pipeline?
Yeah, very, very good point. We do support, we have plugins for all of the major CI/CD providers, Jenkins, Azure DevOps, you name it, we can plug directly into it. But what I just want to talk about quickly while that app is building, for those in the audience, if you're in the security teams, if you're leading the security team, you might be CISO or in the CISO department, when you think about the defenses and security that has gone into the mobile app, you probably don't have a lot of visibility of that. You don't know. I mean, it's not, if you think about what policies are in the firewall, what policies are on, or security, security systems are on our staff laptops or whatever else. There's always, in the span of control of the CISO, of the brand, the owner of the app, that they know what firewall rules are there and all of that, but they don't really know what defenses and protections have gone out into their own mobile app. They're kind of reliant on the developers. Yeah, we've done this. We're doing cert pinning. We've got some root detection in there. We've got this. We've got that, but they don't really know exactly. And so, what Jan has done there by clicking that build button, Jan could be the CISO of one of those brands we see on the left-hand side, and he has the power, not even being in the development team, he has the power to go in there and set the policy, the security policy of that brand's mobile app, save it, and when the developers do the builds through CI/CD, they don't really even have to know. They do a build, it gets committed, they do some tests, it goes up to Appdome, the Appdome platform, we put the protections and all that into the app. Then it goes back to
the platform does that. It's an AI engine. It's an AI machine learning engine. There's no human involved. I would just want to be very clear. There's no human involved that does that. It's an AI-based platform that automates building security into the app. It automates building the specific security policies set by a CISO or by anybody else on the security team, as Dean was saying. into the app using machine learning to do that build by build, release by release. Yes.
Exactly, 100%. So that minute or so that we waited, that app has almost been built now. So that if Jan just click next and just go through the rest of that flow.
Yeah. So the next step would be signing an app, because an unsigned package is not an app. It cannot be run on a device. So you would sign that. Again, if you are using CI/CD, you will be signing using CI/CD. So there is no need to do that on the platform as I'm showing you, but from a demo standpoint, that's where you want to go. But I want to highlight the last part over here. And this is a certificate. This is an artifact of proof that comes with each build on Appdome. And so in this specific case, what you see here is you see who originally added this app to the platform. And then you'll see the Fusion set that was used. Fusion set is Appdome's name for the security model. It's a security model that the sites it would set. And you know who did this work. So the work was done by me today on the 12th of December. And then you have a detailed list, an artifact of proof of all the protections that were in the app. So I didn't turn everything off in my security model. So I also added some encryption to the app. I added Appdome's man-in-the-middle protections to the app. I obfuscated the code of the app. And then I had Appdome's One Shield protections, which is our anti-tampering, anti-debugging protections. But then here you see the mobile bot defense. And you see here in detail all of the protections around mobile bot defense that were built into the app. Okay, the app is not signed yet. Once it's signed, it will tell you which certificate was used, and then there's actually an optimization that takes place, which in most cases means that the size of the app is reduced. But the most important thing here, and Dean, you do this with your customers all the time, no? So in the release meeting, in a non-Appdome world, in the release meeting, the CISO will ask the developers, did you build our required security model in the app? And they'll say, yeah, we think so. Well, can you prove that? Well, we'll have to do a pen test. And then the pen test may or may not come up with vulnerabilities, may come up with findings. Then you have to go ask management for an exception to be able to release to production. It is a contentious meeting. So what Appdome offers all members in the release meeting is an artifact of proof, a certificate that documents exactly the protections that are in the app. So the CISO, before they get into the release meeting, already has this certificate of proof, knows what to go do, knows what's in the app, and can quickly and easily approve the app for release to production. And Dean, how has this transformed the release process within our customers? This has been monumental in their release process, no?
Yeah, it really shortens the time frame that the customers can do app releases now, because they don't have to go through that whole pen test cycle, which, as you said, can take weeks to do. They could release a new version of the app every day if they wanted to, or every week. It ends up being because
and it adds an additional cost reduction element to the process. So we talked about how with Appdome's mobile bot defense, companies actually see major reductions in their cost of their WAFs, because there's less traffic that needs to be handled and processed by the WAF, because we block all of the Appdome protections, block all of the non-official traffic coming from either bots or other non-official apps. And that could have been an app that was modified. It doesn't have to be a bot, could be a modified app, but that modified app is not going to have, it's not going to have the watermark, as we talked about, using mTLS. And so the WAF will identify that and will reject the connection. Okay, so again, all of those non-official traffic, it can be blocked. That's a major reduction in cost at the WAF level itself. And then on top of that, with the certified secure certificate, customers see savings by not having to do a pen test with each release. They see savings by being able to release quickly. Okay, so that's the last thing that I wanted to talk about, Dean, is that with Appdome, all of us, we help customers release to production as quickly as possible. It's not about building protections. It is truly about helping customers transform their release process to ensure, as you said, they want to release on a daily basis, they can with Appdome. There's nothing stopping releasing an app for security reasons because the certified secure certificate is there and documents to the CISO and to the management team that the required protections are indeed in the app. And it provides an audit trail as well. So those are all the things that are really, really important. And so with that, Janeer, I think this is the end of our presentation. Love to go and talk about some more questions. Do we have any more questions in that have lined up?
Not on the chat, John.
Yeah, but I got one. Somebody sent one to me outside of the meeting, and that is really in what is the average time it would take to deploy Appdome's mobile bot defense? Dean, that is again, that's something for you. Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? I mean,
absolutely. So we can deploy now. Obviously, there's an asterisk. It depends on the WAF provider. Depends on the customer's knowledge of configuring the WAF. We can have an unprotected app deployed in around 30 days or less.
End to end.
End to end.
Which
yep.
and a typical WAF deployment, normally, if you want to make changes to that can take months or longer because of the complexity in there.
We can't change windows and the lead time for that. So there is an element of things that we can't control, but all things being equal, we've seen we're around 30 days.
Yeah. And then I just got another question there too. Is there any limitation as to network size or how many different WAFs can be implemented? I mean, lots of our customers have come in and these companies have grown by acquisition, or even in different regions of the world, they deploy different web application firewalls. So is there any limitations to our solution?
No.
None.
No. We don't license by WAF or number of WAFs or number of endpoints as you saw before. You can add as many as you like. We don't even have to know. So customers can switch from one WAF provider to another. They can bring more in. We don't really even have to know.
Great. And I think with this concludes our session. So let me summarize what we talked about. Appdome is a mobile app defense platform that allows customers to protect their consumers against scams, to defend their network against automated bot attacks, and to protect their business against mobile fraud. With regards to mobile bot attacks, Appdome has an automated solution that works with any WAF, that works in a multi-WAF configuration, and that allows customers to easily watermark their apps as the approved app, and by doing so, can reject all other traffic that presents itself to the WAF, and reduce an enormous amount of cost at the WAF level, but also protect themselves against all types of bot attacks, denial of service attacks, credential stuffing attacks, everything else that they may see against their mobile APIs. So if you are concerned about API abuse in your mobile environment, absolutely reach out to us. We're at www.appdome.com, and we will gladly meet with you, do another quick demo. You can invite other people on your team, and we look forward to having this ongoing conversation. Again, with that, Dean, Artie?
Yeah, there is one other question that's come up in regards to limitation on countries that we do business in. The answer is no, Omar. You mentioned South Korea and Taiwan, so we operate right across the globe.
Correct.
I saw another question from Liang. It was regarding, the question is, if a new type of jailbreak, good question, if a new type of jailbreak or rooted attack, do we need release of a new app, or can we manage it remotely? It's a very good question. So in the case of the rooting method, it actually depends. Typically, so we have a security research team, offensive and defensive, And they are continuously, a lot of people, they're continuously researching all of the current routing methods and route hiding methods and looking at ways to obviously, keep up to date with changes. And we do kind of roughly fortnightly improvements or updates to the platform that may include enhancing a particular defense or protection. And so in the case of let's say you don't have mobile bot, and so we're not sending any telemetry to a WAF. The most common way is, yes, you'll actually have to rebuild the app, because everything that we do is built into the mobile app. We don't put ourselves in a position where we can remotely control apps or anything like that. We don't have any PII. We don't store, process, or any PII or anything like that. So we're continually looking to improve and the accuracy of our route detection. In a situation where you have mobile bot, if the route detection comes under the same umbrella as an existing one, no, you will have access to that at the WAF, and you can decide, yes, now I want to decide to continue blocking or disable blocking, or you'll have some flexibility there. But the way that Appdome works by default is everything that we build is built into the mobile app. We're not an attestation service. We're not querying out for any threat intel or threat updates. It's all built entirely into the app. Another question on Harmony. We support iOS and Android-based Harmony OS. So anything on Huawei that is based on Android, we do support. We are looking in the future to bring in support for Huawei's proprietary format, but that's not there yet. That could be there next year. But for Huawei, if it's Android based, yes, we do support it.
Yeah, and one other point that I would like to make to Liang's question is Appdome does not use signature-based defenses. So Liang, what you were asking was if there's a new version of root coming out, a new version of jailbreak coming out. That means if there's a new variant comes out, a new variant has a new signature. Signature-based defenses will not be able to detect that. Okay, so Appdome doesn't use signature-based defense. The Appdome protections look for the methods and tools used by that attack vector. The methods and tools used by routing tools or by jailbreak tools is limited. So in most cases, if somebody will have a new version of a routing tool that they release and they want to use that to attack your app, Appdome already protects against that, because Appdome looks for the methods and tools used by that attack vector. It's not signature based. Now, what Dean was talking about is we have a set of security researchers who actively look for these new methods and new attack vectors. If they find that we do not currently protect against that new vector, then they work with our engineering team and do an update to the platform. And you as a subscriber to Appdome, you as a customer of Appdome, as part of our total protection guarantee, you will get that new protection automatically with the next release of the Appdome platform. So meaning next time you build on the platform, you will get those protections. The second part to your question is what was about remote configurations. Appdome does not allow remote updates to the security model. That by itself is a very unsecure method, and it could be used by an attacker to attack your app. But yes, so thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. We're at the top of the hour. We will be posting a link to this recording as well. But again, thank you so much for attending the webinar today.
Thank you.